Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tomorrow's Headlines Today. It's Robin with Fireside Grace Ministries. I am very happy to see y'all and very glad to be here. So we have some stuff to talk about, and it's just going to be Q&A day. So y'all can just hop on and do your questions, and we'll answer your questions. I know everybody always has questions at the end of the live Tomorrow's Headlines Today, so I just want to give you an opportunity to ask those questions and answer those questions. So make sure you put them in the comment section. Okay, welcome back. All right, if you want to partner with us, you can always partner with us. FiresideGrace.com/partner with us. Brandy's Venmo is Brandy-Cloninger, and Cash App is Fireside Grace. PayPal is Fireside Grace, and you can always send mail Fireside Grace at P.O. Box 1285, Judsonia, Arkansas 72081. Okay, Brandy came to bring me some new soaps. This one is lavender mint. And see how soft they are, that when you touch them, it just even makes your skin feel soft right from the get-go. I love that. I like that minty one. This is citrus lavender maybe, but it has a loofah sponge in the back of it here, and then it looks kind of like an orange kind of deal. I love that. Actually, I used it, and I don't like the feeling of dry sponges. I used this soap the other day, and it was my favorite. It felt like you're getting a full body scrub. Y'all probably don't need to know that, but whatever. This one's magnolia. It smells wonderful. It smells great. I love the dual color tones on it. And then this one is rose, which I actually, the rose ones are like my favorite ones because it reminds me of the smell of Jesus. And then these, I think she said these weren't magnolia. There was one that was eucalyptus, and this one was cucumber melon, but it doesn't smell like cucumber melon. It smells sweeter to me. But anyway, these are Brandy soaps. You can get them on Etsy, Peacefilled Designs. She also does cups and earrings and all kinds of things. So, all right, questions. Y'all got to put your questions in the comment section, or else I don't know what to answer for you. All right, so this could be anything from crypto to whatever. All right. Our email is firesidegrace@yahoo.com or firesidegrace@gmail.com. And you can order your generic goat soaps there. They're not like generic. They're just not scented, if that makes sense. Like when I think generic, I think like store-bought piece of crap soaps, which is what you typically get at the store. Let's see. I don't know how the giant were created if angels can't create. I could be wrong. Oh, I'll tell you. You can actually discover that through reading the Bible and looking at a couple key verses here. So we'll take a look at it. Actually, we see in Romans chapter 1, and I'm going to go to Romans 1:20 because that's my favorite first verse to go to, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so Romans 1:20 gives us the introduction of a time frame of what was going on, okay? So Romans 1:20 starts out here. For since the creation of the world, so this tells us the time of frame, the frame of reference for when things were going on. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. And the Amplified says, so they're without excuse as to why they don't believe in God in that day. Because although they knew God, and this is talking about the beings from the beginning of time, although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools, and it changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like corruptible man and birds and four-footed animals and creeping things. Okay, the word for creeping things right there. We'll take a look at that. Therefore, also he gave them up to uncleanness and the lust of their hearts, to dishonor their bodies among themselves, who exchanged the truth of God for the lie, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. I think that word for exchange right there is probably alaxo again, but let's take a look at that. It's meta-alaxon, which means to be changed, altered, and transformed. So they transformed or altered the truth of God, the aletheon, which is the reality of God, into the falsehood, which is the pseudo. And then they reverenced and served created things beyond the one who created it. So they served created things rather than, and that's not just saying that they served and worshipped angels. That's saying that they served and worshiped themselves also. Now look, we have here, because although they knew God, they did not glorify him nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts. And that word futile, you want to take a look at that word right there. Okay, so let's take a look at the, they didn't glorify him, thankfully became futile. It's Emaitoathesan, however you say it, comes from mata'ayao. It means to make futile, render vain, lead to emptiness. Okay. Metaios, vain and foolish, wicked or idolatrous. So they became wicked and idolatrous, not just they became futile. In their thinking, in their dialogissimo. So in their dialogue, in their inner dialogue. Dialogissimo means in their reasoning, their thought, their arguments, their debates, their doubts, their deliberation, their plotting, etc. So these are completely evil. All they think about is evil. It means back and forth reasoning that's self-based and confused, and contributes to reinforcing others to discuss or remain in initial prejudices rather than in the truth of God. So they literally rationalized and reasoned with themselves as to why they should not believe in God and why they should believe that they are gods, right? And now here's verse 23, and they changed the glory of the incorruptible God into the image made like man. Well, we take a look here, and it says they changed. It's the word elaxon. As we would say elaxon or elasso, but it's elaxon. All right, it means to change, alter, or transform. Okay. It's the concept of changing or transforming that can be related to the word shana, to change or to alter. It means to change or exchange one thing for another. It can refer to a physical change, or a transformation in state or condition, or an exchange of one item for another. In the New Testament, it's often used metaphorically to describe spiritual or moral transformation. Now, in this case, it's not. And it comes from the word allos, which means to change or make different. So they exchanged, altered, changed, transformed, or made different. Okay. Now it comes from the root word allos, which is the equivalent word of acher in Hebrew, which means from one thing to another. So they altered what? It says that they exchanged the glory of the immortal God for the likeness, or into the likeness of the image of mortal man and birds, and mortal man and beasts, and quadrupeds and creeping things. Okay. The word for creeping things is herpeton, right? Like if you've ever been to the zoo, you go to the herpetarium, and that's where you see the lizards and reptiles. Now, if we take a look at Genesis, let's see. I forget which Genesis is. Genesis 6, verse 7. So everybody likes to stop at Genesis 6, verse 4, right? But we need to take a look at Genesis 6, 7. So let's pull this up here. Genesis 6, verse 7. All right. And I've seen some of these creatures in hell, and I can tell you, I know people have been to hell and they think that these creatures in hell are demons, or people have been to heaven and they think that these creatures in hell that are demons are fallen angels. They're not. The angels are chained. Not all of the demons are chained. Some of them are. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, the creatures that move on the ground, for I regret having made them. So we take a look at this in Hebrew, okay? And it says, Vayamer Yehovah Emhe, I will destroy et. I will destroy, et is, okay. I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth. And then he says, from man and beast to creeping thing and bird, for I am sorry. So he's not just saying I'm going to destroy the man and beast, the creeping thing and birds. And notice that he's listing this essentially in the same order. I will destroy the man, ha adam aser baratai, that I created. Me'al, so from above the face of the earth, pnei ha adama, okay, me adam, from man at, and that's the word at and not the word vav. So let's take a look at that word here. Until, during, or as far as. Usually the word that they would use is vav. All right. So against, and, before, by, that, even to, for, as much. So here it says he's going to destroy the man and the beast and the creeping thing. The word creeping thing here is remesh or remes. I believe it's pronounced remesh, though. That means creeping thing or to move lightly. And it's speaking of creeping, crawling creatures. Typically, it's referring to lizards, etc. But it can be anything that creeps or moves on the ground. It can be insects, etc. So you have, and I'm telling you, you'll see these things in hell. There are creatures that look like insects mixed with some sort of serpent, mixed with human, mixed with, I don't know, and they have some sort of similar human form, but not, they don't look like beasts as much most of the time. There's like some sort of humanistic form, and then everybody has some kind of dragon feature or serpent feature, and then they're all twisted and deformed. And so we see here that the giants, the giants, the demons, etc., these things are the creeping things, the creeping beasts, etc. So look at Romans 1:23. They exchanged, let's see, where was it? Was it 122? So they were made to look like they exchanged. Instead of worshiping the glorious God, they changed the glory of the immortal God into the likeness and image of mortal man and bird and beast and creeping thing. Now, it's the same wording as we see in Genesis 6:7. I will destroy from the earth whom I have created from the face of the earth, man and beast, creeping thing, bird of the air. And then we have here in Greek, Paul writes, man and bird, beast and creeping thing. So the order is just a little different, but they altered the image of God or transformed the image of God. That's what it says when it says they exchanged. It's the word elaxon, and it means they altered or transformed the glory of the immortal God for the image of man and bird and beast and creeping thing and lizards, reptiles, etc. Okay. Now, if we take a look at Jude 1:7, we can see that that's what was happening again. So what was going on back then is they were actually having carnal relations with animals, and they were having hybrid offsprings. And then there came a point where we see this, where there's a separation, and that's about 128 years. That's what it says. In the time of Enos, I believe it was Enos or Enosh, when he was born, we see that in Genesis 4:26. It says, in that time, that's when they began to call upon the name of God. With that word, when it says they began to, chahal means they altered or transformed the Shem of God. Now, Shem means the name, mark, or image. And so they altered or transformed the name, marker, image of God. So let's take a look at 2 Corinthians. I want to say it's 1 Corinthians 11:7. It says, man ought not cover his head. Let me just look it up. Man ought not cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God. He's the image and glory of God. Okay. Well, what does it say in Romans 1:23? They changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into the image. So what do we have here? Image and glory being altered or transformed to look like something else. Okay. Well, what was that? What was that? Well, we get a clue if we take a look at Jude 1, verse 7. And I'm saying it like that because I'm typing it in while we're going through this. I have this memorized. I wrote a whole book about this. It's not a best-selling book. It is a best-selling book for us because we sold it personally. But it's not a best-selling book on like Amazon's #1 list or within Christian circles, because every Christian has their own idea of what they think was going on. And if it doesn't include angels reproducing with humans and creating these hybrids, then they can't understand what was happening, because they want either Christians have a tendency to make things extraordinarily supernatural, or they make it extraordinarily natural and take out the supernatural. In this case, it was a combination of things that people were able to do in the natural back then. Now, as our DNA began to deteriorate, through the years, you couldn't do that anymore. There could not be any crossbreeding. So what did they do? They went to genetic alterations. And how do I know this? So we'll cover this in Jude 1:7. I'll get it in the New Testament for you first, and then I'll go back to the Old Testament and show you where it was happening in the Old Testament, which will be Genesis chapter 11, if you want to be specific. Now, it says, in a similar way, Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding towns gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion. They serve as an example of those who suffer the punishment of eternal fire. Now, what it actually says is they sought after strange flesh, okay? And here in the King James, it says, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Okay, well, that sounds, they were going after strange flesh. They were trying to sleep with angels. That's not what they were doing. They weren't trying to sleep with angels. Although in Genesis, if you were to read Genesis chapter 18 and 19, specifically Genesis chapter 19, when supposedly the two angels go into Sodom and Gomorrah to see what's going on, they say, bring them out so that we can rape them, basically. First of all, they look like men. Secondly, those angels were Jesus, because when you get to the end of it, I think it's like 1927 or something like that, chapter 19, verse 27, when it says that, and the Lord called down fire from the Lord in heaven. It says Jehovah on earth called down fire from Jehovah in heaven. He was one of the two angels that was talking. Okay, so one Jehovah stayed and talked to Abraham. One Jehovah went to Sodom and Gomorrah. And in Genesis chapter 18, all three of those angels are spoken to and worshipped as though they are God. Now, no angel will let you worship them. No angel that God sent will let you worship them. They will not. Never. Not one time. If it was a demon, that would be a different story, but it wasn't. That was God. And it even says that's Jehovah God, if you read it in the Hebrew, okay? So what happened here is it says, Hos Sodoma ka Gomorrah kai chai peri otos poles ton homoinan tropon totios ek pornusai. So they were indulging in porn, okay? Kai apolathusai, having gone or having sent after, apoiso sarkos heteros. Now, heteros is the word for strange. Does not mean strange. Heteros here is an alternate form of what we would think of hetero. Hetero means same. Heteros, however, means not the same. It means altered, different, or here, the Greek word heteros is used to denote something that is different in kind or nature. It often implies a distinction between two items or concepts, suggesting an alternative or another of a different sort. In the New Testament, heteros is used to contrast one thing with another, highlighting differences rather than similarities. Right? Now, this isn't the word heteros. This is the word heteros. Okay? And it's saying there's something different, something strange. Now, we get down to the Strong's definition, and the Strong's exhausted concordance definition is altered. So they went after what? Altered flesh. Altered flesh. Well, then we go back to Genesis 14, and we're going to go to Genesis 14:5 in case you want to keep up and read this for yourself. In the 14th year, Kedorlaomer and the kings allied with him went out and defeated the Reaphites, or the Rephaim, in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzites in Ham, which is actually the Zazumim, and the Emites, or Emim, in Shavah Kiriathim. So we're going to go and we're going to look at this in the New King James, right? Okay, so we'll start at verse 1. It came to pass in the days of Amraphel, which means, it comes from the word Rapha, of Shinar, Arioch, King Elisir, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and the title kings of nations, that they made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and king of Bela, that is Zoar. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the king. So we're getting an idea. This is going on in Sodom and Gomorrah and Zoar, okay? This is a small town. And what's going on here? Who is there? We have the Rephaim, which means giants. It means healers. It comes from the word healer. Then it was believed that the Rephaim were able to heal themselves like Wolverine. And so it's noted in history in different antiquities from the tribes, from the various Canaanite tribes in Mesopotamian history and Sumerian history, that when they fought these Rephaim or Raphaim, that they had to cut their heads off and obliterate them in order to keep them from regenerating, because they could just regenerate their body parts, and kind of like Wolverine. So what was the way of defeating Wolverine, or the cheerleader in Heroes or whatever? They had to cut their head off and put a stake through their head, right? Otherwise, they could just reproduce. So that is direct. So what is this? Why does that matter in Genesis 14:5? Well, we see Sodom and Gomorrah had the Rephaim, which we know are the giants, okay? The Zuzites comes from a word which means goat people, and the Emites means terrors, the Emim and the Hazuzim, okay? The Hazuzim is a goat person that's actually mentioned in, I want to say, Daniel chapter 8, when it's talking about the Antichrist. It says there was a male goat who went across the land. It actually says it was a Hazuzim in the Middle East, from Arabia, actually. So we'll be seeing the Antichrist having a lot to do with the Middle East. That will still be a big thing there, and that it will be an actual beast. Well, why is that important? Because Nimrod, okay? So let's just go to Genesis 11, verse 1, okay? Now, remember the word Shem means name, okay? It can mean name, mark, or memorial. So we have the mark of God versus the mark of the beast, right? So we're going to go to Genesis 11, chapter 1. The world had one language, which is interesting because it wasn't necessarily one language before that, although demons do have their own weird language that they speak. So let's take a look here. We'll go to the NKJV. All right. They said, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower whose top is in the heavens." Now, that word for tower means a team, captain, or company of people who can reach to space, the Hashemayim. And that would mean the alternate dimensions of space also. Okay, so this is when that technology was being handed down, given to them again by the fallen angels, because the fallen angels were still there, which are the Nephilim. Okay, and they started to alter themselves. They said, "Let us make for ourselves a name, lest we be scattered abroad." So they said, "Let us make for ourselves a Shem." Well, let's take a look at that here, shall we? Hebrew. "Come," they said, "let us build for ourselves a city, and let us make Vaneashe for ourselves a name, to accomplish, perform, or act." So let's take a real good look here. We'll appoint ourselves, or in the broadest sense or widest application, accomplish ourselves our own name. All right. So now we're going to go to Nimrod, who it says Nimrod became a Gibborim. Okay. And we're going to look at this and I believe it's in Genesis chapter 10, verse 9, if you want to go look. And I can't do this too long because I really do want to answer more questions, and we have to leave by real soon here. About 24, 26 minutes here. All right. Nimrod was a mighty hunter before the Lord. That's why it says he was a mighty hunter before the Lord. So let's go. All right. And Cush begat Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one on the earth. Okay. We know that that was Nimrod who became a mighty one on the earth. So we go look at the word Hebrew. Now, remember I mentioned the word huhal and how he began to be. Huhal means altered or transformed. Huhal means to profane, defile, pollute, desecrate, or begin to be. Okay. Now, if we take a look at the Strong's Concordance, huhal means to defile, break, eat is common, to wound, to dissolve, to pollute, etc., to prostitute, to stain. All right. Comes from the word halal, which means to make weak, sick, or grieved. So they injured themselves, did something that would make themselves be considered diseased, and a diseased animal is not fit for sacrifice, right? So he altered or transformed himself. He altered and became a Gibor, Ba'aresh. He became a mighty one on the earth. So that means he wasn't born a mighty one. He became a mighty one. He altered a mighty one. He began to be. He altered. Let's see the word lichyot. He altered to become. That's what it says. To be, to become, to exist, to happen. He altered to become Gibor, a mighty one. Okay. Now, why is that important? Why is that important at all? Well, we take a look at Genesis 4:26, like I mentioned, and we're backtracking here. Genesis 4:26. And Seth was also born. He named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. Well, we take a look at the Hebrew word for to begin, and it again is the word huhal. And again, it means to defile, pollute, desecrate, or begin. So what did they do? They defiled or desecrated the name of the Lord. Why? Romans 1:23 tells us they exchanged or altered or transformed the glory of the immortal God for images of mortal man. And then, of course, you remember what 1 Corinthians 11:7 says. Man is the image and glory of God. So if they altered the image of God or exchanged the glory of God for the image of beasts, then we who are made in the image of man means they altered or transformed their own image to look like these beasts. And the more that they were allowed to do this, they would become worse and worse deformed. And then when the flood came, by the time the flood came, these creatures were absolutely horrendously deformed, mutated, heinous, big arms, little arms, big jacked arm, teeny tiny little arm, two teeny tiny little tiny arms, and big giant fat legs, sick, nasty, sharp teeth. They had all sort of reptile skin, yellow or red, crocodile looking eyes, just demonic looking eyes. They're all completely messed up. Okay. They're completely messed up. Completely. Some of them look a little more human-like, and some of them look a lot less human-like. Some of them look more like insects. Some of them look more like animals, but they all have some sort of resemblance to a human form and some sort of resemblance to a serpent form, and they are just messed up. Okay. So there's all of that going on. And so you see that. Then we take a look here at, so we were already at Genesis 6:7. So we see here there were polluted or altered and transformed men in Genesis 4:26. So if we take a look at Genesis 6:1, it says, and it came to pass when began to multiply. This is in Hebrew. It says, V'chai. So, and it came to be, Kai huhal ha'adam larob al pnei ha'adama ubanot yuledu lachem. Okay, yuledu lachem. So they were born to them. So v'chai or v'chai means, and it came to be, it came to exist. Kai, when huhal or chahel, kalel is how it would technically be pronounced. When they began. So when what happened? When began men to multiply? What it uses is the same word that's used in Genesis 4:26. when profaned, defiled, and polluted man multiplied la robe on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them. Then what? Then what does it say? And then saw the sons of God, et benot ha-adam kai tobot chena, vayichlu lechem nashim michol asir bacharu. So they took wives for whomever they chose. So from who? From who did they take wives? Genesis 6:1 says they took wives from the polluted and defiled men. Polluted and defiled. And what did they pollute or defile? Romans 1:23, Genesis 6:7, they exchanged the glory of immortal man, of immortal God, for the likeness and image of mortal man and beast and bird and quadruped and creeping thing. Jude 1:7, they altered or exchanged or transformed their flesh for a different flesh. And then you see in Revelation 12, verse 17, that when the dragon goes to wage war, it says he waged war meta spermata gynekos, which means he waged war, or he meta spermata, altered and changed the seed of what? The gynekos, the woman. So here we see what was actually going on, and people overlook this. It came to pass when the polluted men multiplied on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them. Okay? Daughters were born to them. Vayefru, okay? Benecha Elohim, benot ha-adam, that they were tabot. Now, tabot is a different word. Tabot is not what they were: good, pleasant, or agreeable, or beautiful. It's not the typical word for beautiful. They were the best, or they were the better. It comes from the word tob, and tob means to be good, pleasant, agreeable, or beneficial. Now, when we take a look at Genesis chapter 5, you go through the list of Cain's children, it gets to the last daughter, Naamah, and Naamah is known as the mother of demons. Just want to point that out. She's known as the mother of demons. And Naamah means beautiful. And she was polluted. Because you start to see that all of Cain's children at a certain point start to have names that resemble animalistic characteristics. Okay? So that is how the angels couldn't have sex with humans, and how humans started to mix and create giants and interbreed. First of all, the dragon that's asleep in the ocean, Leviathan, that Job says they want to rouse the Leviathan for the end of days, he's big. Crawls on his belly. At some point, when he's the king of the sons of pride. That's demons, anyone who's against God, etc. So that's how the angels didn't create the Gibborim in the sense that everyone thinks they did. The Gibborim are the giants. And actually the word gibberish comes from the way that Gibborim spoke. Gibbor, gibber, gibbor, gibborish, gibborish. You understand? Because they said that they spoke what sounded like gibberish to them. Well, Gibborim have their own language in hell. They speak in this smooth, flowing, rhyming manner, and sometimes they just speak directly in nasty, vulgar, insulting, absolutely terrible language. And mostly I heard them mostly just speak in nasty, vulgar language. Okay. But I've heard that when they speak amongst themselves, they call each other over with these like rhymes. So that's just how they talk. All right. So let's see here. I'll take a look at a couple more of these, and then we'll wrap it up here. Let's see. I have had 2 dreams seeing myself with celebrities. I was hanging out with them as though I was one of them, but I knew I was not. What does this dream mean? Well, you have a calling to minister and evangelize to people in that area. So don't be surprised if God puts you in a position where you know people that are, or there are people that are well known to you or well known around you that you have great influence over. So many of us are seeing demonic gates blocking the wealth transfer while it's in his time. Why is there so much presence, even though there's so much prayer that's occurred thus far? I think a lot of it is because there's a lot of Christians, quote unquote Christians out there that just use the wealth transfer as a means of making money. And I saw one of them today I looked up the big E thing, and the first thing that popped up was some wealth transfer video. And the person was trying to get you to buy into this company that he loves or promotes or whatever. And it just seemed to me like he was trying to benefit himself. And you go scroll through the videos, and everybody's talking about wealth transfer this, wealth transfer that, wealth transfer this, wealth transfer that. Seems to me like it's a gimmick. The real wealth transfer is when you start to live like a Christian and you bless people the way you're supposed to bless people. If there's an hindrance or an impedance on the body of Christ from receiving blessings from God the way that we're supposed to be receiving, it's on our part because we're supposed to bless people. Okay. Now everybody's waiting for this big payday when basically for the wealth transfer to happen, all of the rich people have to give us their money, which isn't going to be an easy thing. So that's for me, that's my opinion. I feel like people use the wealth transfer as a means of trying to suck money out of people, and I feel there's a lot of scumbaggery involved with it, and I don't agree with it. All right. But if you really want to be blessed now, be a blessing to other people. That's what the Bible says. And then when we start to do that, you're going to see things start to shift and move and change, right? Just stop praying that God's going to make you rich and make you blessed and start doing what God's already asked you to do. And that's not a rebuke or anything like that. I'm just saying, we have to do what he told us to do. And I'm not saying that you're not, but a lot of Christians or supposed people waiting for the wealth transfer don't do that. It's always, well, if this ever happened, I could bless you the way I want to bless you. You could bless me the way you want to bless me now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying like I'm trying to get money from you, but if you were to have given 10% of what you had to bless me, and the reason you're not is because you feel like 10 cents out of $1 is not enough, well, then your motive is wrong. You've got the wrong impression here. Jesus said that little lady who gave 2 things less than a penny. So she put two little Shiba Inu tokens in there. It's worth, basically nothing, right? And he said she gave more than anything because she gave everything she had. Why? It was the heart condition. It was the motive with which she was giving, not how much she was giving, but that she trusted God and said, this is all I have, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. I guarantee you she was blessed. Do you have any word on Shiba, XRP, or the wealth transfer? Well, that was my wealth transfer. Yes, I saw Shiba going down, but I have seen XRP going up, and it's going to go up again real soon. Does Jesus have a word for me? Probably. Pray. He'll tell you. Where would the fossils be of mermaids or minotaurs? Well, they hide them. First of all, the fossils, they don't show you what the dinosaurs actually looked like. They've only ever found 60% of a dinosaur at most, 60%. And then the rest of it is all fabricated. So they actually have no idea what these things look like. And some of the dinosaurs some of the demons do look like dinosaurian or saurian or whatever you want to say, but they have more humanistic traits and characteristics. There's not really a lot that really look like straight up dragons, right? Well, I've seen some, and you also have to think that the bones would have been washed out to the ocean when the flood started to recede. The mud and bones and stuff would have been dragged back and spread out. So the fact that we have even a few of these bones is pretty impressive. But let me show you one that I've specifically seen when I was in hell, and he was pretty terrible. I'll pull it up here. Prove your humanity so you can look at a picture of a demon. Let me see if I can share my screen with you here. Share screen, yes. 1 second. Hopefully I didn't lose y'all here. Okay, so okay. So hopefully you can see this. This is a Nodosaurus, okay? They've only discovered a partial amount of this, but this is one of those things they discovered in the mud. They said, oh, this is one of the most amazingly preserved Nodosauruses. Now imagine that thing standing up. and he's going to have big, long teeth, and he's going to have human arms, one that's jacked up, one that's not. And the scales on this thing going to be because this is a recreation. The scales on this thing, like these horns here and stuff, those are actually scales. They're not just the spikes. Those would be the scales from it, and most of their scales are like the size of your hand. They're huge. Let me see if I can find another one. They did one where they made a replica of it. And it's terrifying, and it looks like, oh, this one here. Right there. Imagine this thing standing up, and he's looking, he's looking at you, and he's got little tufts of hair. His face is a little different. It's like green and red, and those eyes right there, reptile eyes. That looks like a demon. That is, and then they portray these things like this. They try and portray this thing to make it look like it was walking around like this. And that's not the case. Not at all. They're horrible, nasty, disgusting things. Now we'll stop screen sharing there. They're nasty. Okay. So if you ever want to see a demon, hey, Pastor Robin, God bless. Thank you, Miss Alice. Not to make things strange, but my son and I, who was 8 at the time, saw an elderly male fairy when we lived in Ecuador. He stalled in the air and turned his head completely around. There are demons in hell that look like that. When will the Democrats receive justice? Very soon. You're going to see it very soon, actually. And it's going to be Republicans, too. It's not just Democrats. Let's see. Could you comment on post-flood Nephilim in Numbers 13:33? Yes, the Nephilim are fallen angels. And also, I did comment on that. So, hi, Robin. What was that language? The language of the demons? I have no idea. It's some demonic language. His face looked like a Squidward from SpongeBob. He had a wooden crown on his head that was too big. Coarse, long, stringy hair. About 50 hairs on his head. Red dots in the shape of a triangle. Yeah, there's nasty little things down there that kind of look like that, too. On his chest and back was a stinger on his butt and elf shoes. Yeah. Yeah, it happens. I sound crazy, but yeah, there's things that look like that in hell. You saw a demon. YouTube has a trailer for those who might be interested. A trailer of what? Mostly the children of Cain mixed with them. Yes. Will the next pope be the false pope of the apocalypse? One of them. Yeah. Don't forget that there was a prophecy from like 1,000 years ago that said that this pope would be the last pope. I don't think that that's the case, obviously. Has the Lord showed you what Armageddon will look like, and will we humans take place in that fight? Somewhat. There will be some humans here, but we get pulled out. Are you talking about the time right before the Great White Throne Judgment? Yes, it's a lot like it is here on Earth, except Jesus is here reigning and ruling. Let's see. I've had several dreams of being pregnant over the past couple of years, and a few other times of me holding a baby. Saying how wise she is. Any thoughts? Yes. You are giving birth to something in your life that's relatively new to you, but you've been growing it, processing it for the past 9 months or however long, and now it's coming into your existence for you. And it's something dealing with the wisdom of God that God's given you. Dreamt. What does it mean driving a pink Cadillac and I didn't have control? It means there's things that you're doing in the flesh that you are feeling like you're out of control with. So just pray and ask the Lord to help you to get free from that. Let me tell you this. There is nothing in hell that is worth your salvation. Whatever the devil tries to tempt you with, there is nothing that is worth your salvation. Hokma, do you guys have a partner meeting today? Yes, we do. And we did send you the Zoom link before, and it is always the same link. Any news from God about electronium? No. Do you have any future price for ETN? No. Can you give an insight regarding the multiple fires in South Carolina? No, but I've been praying for my friend Sean up there. He's got family up there that's being affected by that. Trailer, read the House of David show on Amazon Prime, released 3 of 8 episodes already. Quite good. Okay, great. Have you seen what happens in the spirit when we pray in tongues? I haven't specifically seen it, but I know that it's like a nuclear bomb going off. These are beginning to sound like the locusts that come out of the pit. Yeah, oh yeah, they describe demons pretty well in the book of Revelation. Yeah, that's what demons are like. They're a mix of all kinds of things. They're weird, nasty, hybrid chimeras, and we're treating them, again, dream someone giving me a suitcase full of money. You will have a great blessing coming your way. And the first language was spoken on all the world after God created other languages. Maybe. They just make it a point to say, hey, there was one language at the time of Babel. So anyway, all right, that's all I got for you guys today. Love you guys. Be blessed, and I'll see you again real soon. Keep us in your prayers about the van, the transmission, and all that stuff. So we'll be at minimum, okay? The cheapest route will be at least $3,000 to get the transmission fixed. Otherwise, the guy said it's going to be $5,000. And we can't get a refurb transmission. That's our only vehicle. So we're looking for, we just want to get the vehicle fixed. So just keep us in your prayers. All right. We might just need something different other than this vehicle because it's, we'll see. All right. Love you guys. Be blessed. And until next time, bye.